Hello, everyone. So the title of the talk is Node.js CI/CD with GitHub, basically. But it has Node.js in the title, but it's going to be more general stuff. I'm going to give some examples from Node.js Word, but most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about are general, and you can apply them to pretty much every backend application or even the device application. And it has also GitHub in the title, but this is also, most of the stuff are Git related, and you can use GitLab or I don't know why, Microsoft solutions that do this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to show any code, so most of the talk is about what did we do through the years, and did we benefit from them or not, and yeah, basically what can be beneficial for you. So the talk would be 3 parts. The first one is basics of CI/CD pipelines. Second part is how did we go crazy with CI/CD pipelines in one of the positions that I had. And the third part is about deployment of your code, which is mostly also backend themed there, but the other two can be used for clients as well. One question, how many backend engineers are here? Nice. And how many client people? Nice. How many none? So what do you do, sir? Okay. You? That you?
Same thing, a little bit of front, a little bit of back.
Okay, nice. No worries. Then that's me. Software engineer at Yodel, which is a company in Berlin doing social media application, which is kind of like Twitter, anonymous, local based. So you write something and everyone in your proximity can see it. And I'm also a Docker captain, which means I drive ships and stuff. That's my name, Mohammad-Ali Arabi. My last name means nomad, basically, and that's my handle pretty much everywhere, except for Twitter, that it was already taken. So if I'm not going to show my Twitter handle through the presentation, but if you want to see it, it's also written on my sleeve. So I will move like this so that you can read it. I'm also a blogger, so this is the thing that I wrote last night. You can check it out. So I started coding in 2005, and Git was created at the same time. It's 18 years now. Fast forward to 2013, where I started working in an office. That was the year Docker was created, so I want to give a bit of context. Why did we do the things that we did, and how the situation was. And 2015, I joined another company, and the situation was this. Git was 10 years old back then. GitHub was 7 years old, and GitLab was 4. Docker was 2 years old. It was still not as popular, but popular enough in the US that they created Kubernetes 1 year after that. And GitLab CI was just made in 2005 in the April. Other big news in the tech industry, SRVars was created, released that year. EKS was not still there, so Kubernetes was there, but it still was not adopted by Amazon Web Services, and GitHub Actions was still not created. 2015, I'm there, up that building. This is the nicest office that we had, so I'm going to show a lot of photos of this one to show off. And yeah, so I'm on the terrace there. We had a software application that was running on bare metal. The way we would do that was that we had physical servers. This guy had the server on his desk, if you can see it. He would set it up. We would put it in a car, go drive to the data center, plug it into the racks, and then we would install databases and our application on it. So this is how we did things back then. And this is the first time I started creating CI/CD pipelines. So the team there was quite a few, 10 people. The application had, I guess at the time, like a few million users. And we had some scripts that we would run, and it would go SSH into every server that we had, deploy, pull the things from GitLab, and deploy them, basically. The team was small, and basically the way things would work was that people would push on to the master. We had one time that our senior engineer did a feature, pushed it to master, deployed it, and all the servers went down. And he realized, yeah, he missed the colon somewhere. So this is the time that I started making CI/CD pipelines. So this part is basic stuff. So who uses CI/CD pipelines? Everyone, right? Okay. The first thing was that check your syntax in the CI. This is basically what we started doing, and I created a CI job that would check the syntax of the code. This is something that you can do pretty much with every technology. And people would still don't use it. They would still push to master and don't look into it. So another time, the CI went red. They deployed it even though the CI was red, and then we had another incident. So the second thing, look into your CI. So if the CI goes red, please don't deploy. This is another thing we'll turn. The one after is, the one before was that we could also run the tests in the CI if you have any. Do you have tests? You should. And the thing is that the team grows. After some time, you cannot push to master anymore. You have to really set up some rules. And this is also another takeaway that I had from that role. And we started making some rules. One is that everyone should create a pull request. It's called merge request in the GitLab that we used back then. But the code that you want to deploy should be reviewed, and at least someone should give it a thumbs up before deploying. And we created CI pipelines to do some automation and check the syntax so that the reviewer doesn't need to look into your colons and semicolons and run the tests, basically. So fast forward to 2019. I visited Netherlands in 2018, and EKS was finally created. After 4 years after Kubernetes was created, Amazon created his managed Kubernetes service. So you could then start pushing, deploying stuff to Kubernetes on Amazon. And then 2019, GitHub Actions was created. That makes it 4 years old now. I moved back to Germany, and I landed in a company that was a bit, it felt like it was 3000 BC, because we didn't have Git, we didn't have no CI/CD pipelines, no tests, and Windows, basically. We started by, so the company was using SVN, no branching, no nothing, and we started by translating the code history into Git, created the first CI pipelines, started using Docker. So that's also something very specific to this use case, but they were using VMs that had Linux running on it, and they would basically deploy VMs to customers. And we were using Windows to develop into the VMs that run Linux on, basically. This is why that didn't make sense. And then we started using Linux as a host, and we started using Docker, which made the whole process of developing a lot faster. And another story that, which is maybe funny. When I joined, I said, so why don't you use Git? Because we can then automate the stuff with Git. And they said, yeah, we tried to translate this SVN history that we have, but we failed. It doesn't work. I tried it, I could do it. And then I went to the IT guy who didn't manage to do it, and then realized that he couldn't do it because his Git was in German, and the translation tool was using the logs of the Git tool, and then because it was German, it couldn't understand and it would fail. So takeaway here is don't use Git in German. We did another thing, which was a bit too ambitious. We started creating a new stack for the application that we had. So the application that we had was written in PHP, had no tests, no automation at all. We started using a MongoDB, Node.js, Angular stack, and setting some rules to force people to make things right and don't repeat the things that they did in the PHP project. So who's familiar with extreme programming? Nice. Yeah, so that's a well-known paradigm that has some practices like CI, continuous integration, which says you have to continuously integrate your work into the production application. Test-driven development, which means you have to create first the test, and then your production code should be just enough code to make the failing test pass, and then pair program it. So some well-known practices. The thing that we did there was called extreme madness. So we basically set up enough CI rules to force people to do things the right way. So this is the thing that we tried to achieve there. There was almost no discipline in coding, and we tried to force it through CI jobs, basically. A few things that we did was, so easy stuff, tests should be run and pass. We forced 100% test coverage. So we forced people to really write tests for the code that they were writing. So if they had one line of code that wouldn't be covered through the tests, then they couldn't merge the pull request. We had code linters that would aggressively check everything in the code, like code formatting, whether a promise is awaited for or not, and we even had commit lint so that people should have followed a certain rules for writing commit messages. We had a rule for a small PR, so every pull request that we had should have been less than 500 lines of change. Some files were excluded from this, of course, like npm packages. But if it was bigger, then they had to break it down. The CI wouldn't even allow them to merge it. And we had another rule that was one commit per request. Because I will elaborate this. We had this workflow that everyone making a code change can do a small commit. They make a pull request, and after it's evaluated and reviewed, they rebase it also regularly, but at the end they squash it into one commit and then fast forward merging that one commit to the master branch. A few reasons for this one commit rule was that first we wanted the author of the pull request to write the final commit message. If we use the squash merge that is also available on GitHub, then the one who merges can write the message. And we wanted this message to be checked in the CI pipeline. If it's done through the UI of GitHub, you cannot do it. And the other one was that, yeah, so if the developer squashes everything at the end, it's kind of like they do another round of review and they write it locally. It's not like the maintainer of the PR of the repository writes the stuff. Some things that it's to I wrote some stuff on my blog about this 10 commandments of Git commit messages. This is the rules that we forced people to follow. 3 ways of merging stuff. So we were using this way of squashing manually and then doing a fast forward merge, but that's all discussed there, and another one on huge pull request. So yeah, after following these rules, we became a happy team and went out to play tennis, basically. So almost there. Last position in the last company that I worked in, 2022, which is last year. I started working at Yodel. So we were running on microservices, which means basically they have a huge code base, which was once a monolith, and then they started creating smaller services that would communicate to these small to these monoliths. And when I joined, we had to move out of bare metal servers and migrate to AWS on Amazon, because the maintenance of the services that we had was too much overhead, and then we decided to use managed services and let the provider of these services do this hard work. And we did that for 7 months, and we finished, I guess, last month. So I joined as a backend engineer there, but I was doing SRE stuff for most of the time I was there. We had some workflows regarding CI/CD pipelines that I will mention here. The lint job that I mentioned earlier, you can actually make it less overhead for the engineers. You can create a Git hook that when people commit, then it's automatically running the linter, and the code that is pushed to the remote branch is already linted. You can still put a job in the CI for checking the linting this code. So because people can, the local can break, these hooks can break, and you have to still check it on your CI pipeline. The final product of our CI pipelines were Docker images, because then we would put them onto Kubernetes clusters. And the rule there was to do a squash merge. The main reason that it worked was that the person who wrote the code was also the one who would deploy it. You would squash merge it, effectively the same thing that we did in the last company. And then this one commit that would merge into master would be deployed by the author of the commit, basically. The deployment was though manual, so you had to copy the link to the hash of the Docker image and then put it into your configs of your Kubernetes, and then do a Kubernetes update to deploy the new version of the code. After we migrated, we changed the workflow regarding CI/CD pipelines a bit. First of all, we started using GitHub Actions. Because we moved to AWS, the Docker images would then be pushed finally to AWS's Docker registry, which is called EKS, I guess. No, something else, ECR. And we started scanning the Docker images that we've built inside the CI. So before pushing these Docker images to AWS, we would then first push them to GitHub's local registry for Docker images. We would scanned them there using different scanning tools. We used the one by Aqua Security called Trivi, but you can use pretty much everything. You can use a snake. You can. I'm not sure about Docker solution now if you can use it on CI, but there are many solutions to scan your images for supply chain security. We started using Helm instead of writing plain Kubernetes configs, because then it's more dry. You can abstract away some stuff. And then we started using GitHubs, which means we push the code, and then this solution that we used called Argo CD would look into the version of the code on GitHub. If there was any changes, that then it would pick them up and push them to the Kubernetes cluster. So what is GitHubs? GitHubs is basically to infrastructure as code what Git was to application code, basically. So infrastructure as code was something that became popular a few years ago, that instead of doing manual work to create your servers to deploy, you would write some code that would do this for you. So you want to create, you want to reserve a new server at Amazon, you write some code that does it through Terraform, for example. And then GitHubs was using this same Git paradigm that you would do to your code, but then you apply them to your infrastructure as code instead of your application code. So it's the same. So you write your code, you run the test on the CI. You write your Terraform configurations, you can still run some tests on them before merging them. You can do the syntax checks, you can do the linting. You have CI for your application code to integrate your code into the main branch. You have CD to deploy it to your main production server. So the same ideas, but applied to a different part of the process of your application. And so, yeah, another happy photo because we adopted all these nice paradigms. And yeah, so some conclusions. Create CI for everything. I actually had the talk last year in Docker Community All Hands. How do I compile my CV through CI pipelines on GitHub Actions? CI, you can create CI for pretty much everything to automate the stuff. And yeah, so the other conclusion is that as your company grows, you should create more rules to set up the culture of your deployment and development. Thanks. It's again my Twitter handle is here if you have any questions later that you didn't ask now. And that's my Medium applications. Thank you.